The Henschke family came to be here in Eden Valley basically because of religious persecution. Johann Christian Henschke arrived here in 1841, settled initially up at Loberthal, or Lobertal, which is a valley up in Adelaide Hills, bought this property out here in about 1860, then slowly moved out here, built the winery and the house and planted vineyard, and here we are today. The Hill of Grace vineyard wasn't planted by my great-great-grandfather Johann Christian. It was actually planted by a great-great-grandfather on my grandmother's side, and his name was Nicholas Stanitsky. And that was planted in 1860, opposite the Hill of Grace Church, the Gnadenberg Church. It was really just a part of that village. What's interesting about it is not a hill, as the name suggests. It's actually a little valley. I think the Hill of Grace vineyard really survived, basically because in those days they were pretty poor. I mean, they were just sort of farmers and making ends meet. So they didn't pull out the vines and replant them. They just left them. They just worked them. So the son took over and he worked them, and then the grandson took over and he kept them going and pruned them and looked after them, planted a bit more, and so they're really a legacy of the past. They're just a amazing little museum of 150 years ago.
And it's interesting when you talk about the longevity of that vineyard. You look at the soils and you understand why it's actually existed for so long and hasn't died away. It's unirrigated, it's dry grown, and it's actually managed to go through a couple of periods of drought. I mean, the Federation drought for one, 7 years. And so there must be a special sort of microclimate in that area that makes it good for Shiraz. I guess being together for so long really means that we've shared a lot of the learning and the doing, the creating together, and it makes a pretty good team, I reckon.
What it means to become the sixth generation is continuing the legacy that Mum and Dad have certainly carried on so successfully. And my parents actually didn't force me into studying winemaking, which I kind of assumed they would have a little bit. I thought about doing something different and came around to studying winemaking in the end. I guess I sort of didn't really know what I was going to be doing, and I wanted to go to university and ended up reading a few books about wine, and that piqued my interest in wine. So I decided to bite the bullet and do some winemaking studies.
Well, each generation in the Henschke family has added to the structure of the vineyards. I guess it's wonderful to see our children so deeply interested in the business.
The old and the new is a really important part of a family winery. I think it's a really important part of that sort of change, that development that occurs. Tradition is one of the most incredibly important parts of a family business. The first families of wine is a really important part of preserving that sort of history of the family history of Australia, and to have a commonality between a whole group of old multi-generational families. So we've got a lot in common, and to join the force together, it makes us really powerful, because we've got fantastic brands, we've got great history, we've got real personalities. I mean, where would you get it from anywhere else? I mean, it's so important, and so important for the future.